My brother smirked. "You can always buy another one, and this is for my future too." After demanding my beach house as his wedding gift, so I said, "Don't plan your future around something you don't own." Here, I am absolutely baffled by what just happened at my parents' house during Sunday dinner. I need some perspective because my family is making me feel like I'm living in an alternate reality. For context, 5 years ago, after a particularly successful project launch and subsequent promotion, I bought a modest beach house about 2 hours from where we all live. It's nothing fancy, a 2-bedroom cottage that needs constant maintenance, but it's mine, and I worked incredibly hard for it. I spent weekends renovating it myself, learning plumbing from YouTube videos, and essentially pouring my savings into making it livable. My younger brother James, 29 min, has always been what my parents call a free spirit. He's bounced between jobs, pursued various artistic endeavors, and generally lived a more relaxed lifestyle. I've never judged him for it. We're different people with different priorities. I've helped him out financially several times over the years, no strings attached, because that's what family does. 3 months ago, James announced his engagement to Patricia, 27 First Standal. I was genuinely happy for him. Patricia seems lovely, and James appears to have found some stability with her. They've been together for 2 years, and she's been a positive influence on him. I immediately congratulated them and started thinking about what would make an appropriate wedding gift. That brings us to last Sunday. We were all sitting around my parents' dining table. Me, James, Patricia, and our parents, Richard, 61 Emmeline, and Susan, 58 Emmeline F. Wedding planning dominated the conversation, as it has for weeks now. Patricia was showing us venue options on her tablet when James suddenly put down his fork and looked directly at me. "So, Michael," he said with this oddly formal tone, "Patricia and I have been discussing wedding gifts, and we've decided what we'd really like from you." I smiled, thinking maybe they'd created a registry or needed help with something specific for their new apartment. "Sure, what were you thinking?" "The beach house." I actually laughed. I thought he was joking. The table went silent, and I realized from everyone's expressions that he was completely serious. "I'm sorry, what?" I managed to say. James leaned forward, speaking as if he'd rehearsed this. "Look, you're successful. You have your city apartment, your investment portfolio, your 6-figure job. The beach house is just a vacation property for you. For Patricia and me, it would be life-changing. It would give us the stability we need to start our marriage right." I sat there stunned, trying to process what was happening. Patricia was nodding along supportively. My parents were watching me expectantly. "James," I said slowly, "that's a $400,000 property. You're asking me to give you a house as a wedding gift." "It's not about the money," he said, which immediately made me see red, because it's absolutely about the money. It's about family. Successful older siblings help younger ones celebrate life milestones properly. You've done well for yourself, amazingly well. This is your chance to pay it forward." My mother chimed in. "Michael, you do have so much. Would it really hurt you to help your brother start his married life properly?" My father added, "You barely use it anyway. You've been there, 3 times this summer?" I looked around the table, feeling like I was in the twilight zone. "I've been there 3 times because I've been working 60-hour weeks to maintain the success you're all so eager to redistribute." "Don't be dramatic," James said, rolling his eyes. "This is exactly what I'm talking about. You hoard your success instead of sharing it with family." "I've loaned you money 17 times in the past 5 years, I said, my voice getting sharper than intended. "I paid for your car repairs last year. I covered your rent for 3 months when you were finding yourself between jobs." "Loaned," James emphasized, "and I've paid most of it back." "You've paid back about 30%, but I've never pushed for the rest because I understood you were struggling." Patricia finally spoke up, her voice sweet but firm. "We're not asking for charity, Michael. We're asking for a wedding gift that would mean something that shows you support our union." "I support your union," I said. "I'm happy to give you a generous wedding gift, but I'm not giving you my house." The tension at the table was suffocating. James's face had turned red. "This is so typical. You've always been selfish with your success. Remember when you wouldn't let me borrow your car for that road trip? You mean when you wanted to take my new car on a cross-country trip 3 days after I bought it? With your friends who I'd never met? You always bring up irrelevant details, he snapped. Susan intervened. Boys, please. Michael, just think about it. You don't have to decide right now. There's nothing to think about, I said, standing up. The answer is no. I'll be happy to give James and Patricia a generous check as a wedding gift or help with honeymoon expenses, but I'm not giving away my house. James stood up too, his chair scraping against the floor. You know what? Keep your house. Keep everything. But don't expect us to pretend we're a close family when you clearly value your possessions more than your own brother's happiness. I left shortly after that. The drive home was surreal. I kept replaying the conversation, wondering if I was missing something. Was there some cultural norm where people gift houses to siblings? Had I somehow indicated previously that the beach house was available? I texted my best friend about it, and his response was basically, "What the actual hell?" Which made me feel slightly less insane. But here's what's really bothering me. My parents have been texting me all week, not directly asking me to reconsider, but sending subtle guilt trips. Links to articles about generosity within families, and the importance of supporting siblings. My mom even sent me a photo of James and Patricia looking at wedding venues with the caption, "They look so happy, despite everything. Despite everything." Despite not being given a free house, James hasn't contacted me directly, but he's been very active on social media, posting quotes about knowing who your real family is. And when people show you who they are, believe them. Am I crazy here? I feel like I'm being gaslit by my entire family. The wedding is in 6 months, and I have no idea how to navigate this. I want to support my brother, but his expectation is so far beyond reasonable that I don't know how to bridge this gap. Update 1. 2 weeks later, I thought things couldn't get more surreal after my last post. But I was wrong. Very, very wrong. After 2 weeks of family Cold War, I received a text from James saying he wanted to talk. He suggested we meet for coffee, just the two of us, to clear the air. I agreed, hoping maybe he'd come to his senses. I arrived at our usual coffee shop downtown to find not just James, but Patricia too. That should have been my first red flag, but I decided to stay and hear them out. James started with what seemed like an apology. "Michael, I realize I approached this all wrong at dinner. I was nervous, and it came out more aggressive than I intended. I felt myself relaxing slightly. I appreciate that. It was definitely a shock." Patricia leaned forward. "We've been doing a lot of thinking about what you said about it being a $400,000 property." "Right," I said, wondering where this was going. "And you're absolutely right," James continued. "It's unreasonable to expect such a valuable gift without giving something in return." I nodded, relieved that they were finally seeing reason. "So we have a proposal," Patricia said, pulling out her phone. "We've been looking at comparable properties in the area, and we think we could manage a payment plan. Maybe $500 a month for as long as it takes." I did the math quickly in my head. That would take over 66 years to pay off, not including property taxes, maintenance, and insurance. "Well, family discount," James said with what he probably thought was a charming smile. "That's not a family discount. That's basically rent below market rent, actually. But eventually, we'd own it," Patricia pointed out. "In 2090, I said flatly. "And what about interest? Interest between brothers?" James looked offended. I took a deep breath. "Guys, I appreciate that you're trying to find a compromise, but this isn't one. You're essentially asking me to give you the house with a token payment plan that wouldn't even cover basic expenses. We could take care of maintenance," Patricia offered. "The maintenance costs on a beach house are substantial. The salt air alone means constant upkeep. Last year, I spent $15,000 on repairs and maintenance." Their faces fell. James's expression hardened again. "So that's it. You won't even consider helping us." "I've offered to help, just not by giving you my house." "Your second house," Patricia corrected. "Your vacation house." "My house that I worked for, saved for, and renovated myself," I countered. The conversation deteriorated from there. James accused me of rubbing my success in his face. Patricia suggested I was holding James back from his potential by not supporting him properly. They left in a huff, and I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 3 days later, my doorman called up to say my brother and his fiancée were here to see me. I was working from home and in the middle of a complex code review, but I told him to send them up, hoping maybe they'd come to genuinely apologize. They walked in carrying a measuring tape, a notebook, and what looked like paint samples. "What's going on?" I asked, completely confused. "We're going to the beach house this weekend," James announced. "We wanted to get your key so we can really envision it properly." "Envision what?" "Our future home," Patricia said, as if this was obvious. "We need to measure the rooms, see what furniture would fit, decide if we need to repaint." "You're not getting my key," I said, incredulous. "Michael, be reasonable," James said. "We're trying to be practical here. If we're going to make this work, we need to plan." "Make what work? I've told you repeatedly that I'm not giving you my house." Patricia turned to James with a sad, disappointed look. "I told you he wouldn't cooperate. We should just go through your parents." "Go through my parents for what?" I asked. "They have a spare key," James said. "From when you had them check on the place during that hurricane last year." My blood went cold. "You are not going to my house without my permission." "It's going to be our house," Patricia said quietly. "We're just trying to prepare." "It's not going to be your house," I nearly shouted. James stepped forward. "Look, Michael, I didn't want to bring this up, but Patricia's pregnant." Everything stopped. I stared at them both. Patricia's hand went to her still flat stomach in that protective gesture I'd seen from pregnant friends. "Congratulations," I said automatically, my mind racing. "But that doesn't change." "We need stability," James interrupted. "A proper home for our child, your nephew or niece. Doesn't that mean anything to you?" "Of course it does. But having a child doesn't entitle you to my property." "God, you're heartless," Patricia said, tears welling up in her eyes. "We're trying to build a family, and you're sitting on empty property you barely use." "I'm heartless? You're the ones trying to manipulate me into giving you a house by announcing a pregnancy." "We're not manipulating anyone," James said angrily. "We're being honest about our situation. We need help, and you have the ability to help us." "I've offered help. You've rejected anything except the exact help you want." They left after more arguments, with James warning me that I was making a huge mistake and would regret choosing property over family. That evening, my mother called. She was crying. Actually crying. "Michael, how could you? They're having a baby. Your brother is starting a family, and you won't even let them look at the house?" "Mom, they want me to give them the house, as in transfer ownership. That's not normal. What's normal is supporting family. We didn't raise you to be selfish." "I'm not being selfish by not giving away a $400,000 asset. It's just a building, Michael. Family is forever." "Then why is my family trying to guilt me into giving away just a building?" She hung up on me. My own mother hung up on me. Richard called an hour later, his tone more measured, but still disappointed. "Your mother is very upset." "I'm upset too, Dad. This whole situation is insane." "Is it really that insane for a successful person to help their struggling family members? There's a massive difference between help and giving away a house." "You could afford to buy another beach house if you wanted," he pointed out. "That's not the point. And no, I couldn't just easily buy another one. It would take years of saving again. James and Patricia will never have the opportunities you've had. I created my opportunities, Dad. I worked through college, lived on ramen for years, and saved every penny. James chose a different path, which is fine, but he doesn't get to claim my rewards for his choices." There was a long silence. "I hope you know what you're doing, son. I hope that house is worth losing your brother." "I'm not the one making that choice," I said. The next day, James posted on Facebook, "Some people value property over family. Some people would rather see empty rooms than help their brother and pregnant fiancée start their lives together. Remember this when someone tells you family comes first. For some people, it's just words." 17 people liked it. 3 commented with supportive messages. My cousin commented asking what happened, and James replied, "Ask Michael about his investment priorities." I've been staying off social media since then, but friends have been screenshotting things for me. Patricia posted a photo of a modest apartment with a caption, "Making the best of what we have, because that's what real families do. They make things work without handouts." Handouts. They're calling my refusal to give them a house A refusal to give handouts. Update 2, 1 month later. I need to update you all on the absolutely insane escalation that happened last weekend. I'm actually writing this from my beach house, where I've installed new locks and a security system. But let me back up. After my last update, things went relatively quiet for about 2 weeks. No dramatic family dinners, no surprise visits, just a few passive-aggressive social media posts that I ignored. I started to hope maybe everyone was cooling down and we could have a rational conversation eventually. Then last Friday, I got a call from my neighbor at the beach house, Jennifer. She's a retired teacher who lives there year-round and keeps an eye on things for the summer residents. Michael, I don't want to alarm you, but there are people at your house. They said they're family. My stomach dropped. Are they inside? No, but they're trying keys at the door. Should I call the police? I told her not to call yet, that I'd handle it. I immediately called my parents. My mother answered, and I could hear she was in the car. Oh, Michael, perfect timing. We're actually on our way to the beach house now. You're what? Mom, James and Patricia are trying to break into my house. Don't be dramatic. We gave them the spare key so they could see the place properly. You're being so stubborn about this whole situation. You gave them my key without my permission? It's just to look, Michael. What harm could that do? I hung up and immediately called a locksmith, asking for emergency service. Then I got in my car and drove the 2 hours to the beach house, probably breaking several traffic laws in the process. When I arrived, I found a scene that still makes my blood boil. James and Patricia were on my deck with my parents, having apparently given up on trying to get inside. They'd brought furniture catalogs, a laptop, and Patricia was taking photos of the exterior. But that wasn't the worst part. There was another couple with them who I didn't recognize. Michael, Patricia called out cheerfully, as if this was all normal. Perfect. You can let us in for the tour. Tour? I asked. The unknown woman stepped forward with a bright smile. Hi, I'm Rebecca, and this is my husband, David. Patricia and James invited us to see the honeymoon rental property. We're so interested in booking it for our anniversary. I stared at them all, speechless. James had the audacity to look sheepish. You're already trying to rent out my house? I finally managed. Well, it would help with the costs, Patricia said defensively. Beach houses can generate significant rental income. My beach house, which is not for rent and is not yours to rent out. Rebecca and David looked confused. I'm sorry, is there some confusion? Patricia said you were gifting them the property as a wedding present. There's definitely confusion, but not on my end. This is my house. I own it. It's not being gifted to anyone. The couple exchanged uncomfortable looks. David pulled out his phone. We actually already Venmo a deposit. I turned to James. You took a deposit for rentals on my house? We'll return it, he said quickly. We were just showing them the potential. The potential of fraud, I shot back. Rebecca and David left quickly after that, murmuring about needing to review their options. I heard David whisper, "This is sketchy," as they walked to their car. Once they were gone, I faced my family. Everyone needs to leave. No, Michael, don't be like this, Susan pleaded. We're just trying to help them plan. Plan what? Their life in a house I'm not giving them? Richard tried the stern father approach. Son, you're embarrassing yourself and this family. I'm embarrassing myself? James is literally trying to rent out property he doesn't own. It's because you're forcing us to be creative, James exploded. If you would just do the right thing. The right thing is not stealing someone's house. Patricia started crying. We're not stealing. We're asking for help starting our family. Why do you hate us so much? I don't hate you, but I'm not giving you my house. How many times do I need to say this until you realize how selfish you're being, James said. I pulled out my phone and called the locksmith to confirm they were on their way. I'm changing the locks. If any of you come here again without my explicit permission, I'll call the police. You'd call the police on your own family? Susan gasped. On people trying to illegally access my property? Yes. The locksmith arrived an hour later, during which my family continued to berate me. James accused me of being materialistic. Patricia said I was putting money over family. My parents said I was breaking their hearts. While the locks were being changed, Patricia made one more attempt. Michael, I didn't want to say this, but I'm having complications with the pregnancy. The stress of not having stable housing is affecting my health. I looked at her steadily. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you'll see a doctor, but emotional manipulation won't make me give you my house. It's not manipulation. It's the truth, she cried. Even if it is, it doesn't change anything. You have housing. You have an apartment. Not having a beach house isn't a medical emergency. James stepped between us. If something happens to our baby because of your selfishness... Stop, I said firmly. Stop right there. You're not going to blame me for anything that happens in your life just because I won't give you my property. You're adults. Figure out your own housing situation like everyone else does. The locksmith finished, and I paid him extra for the emergency call. As my family was leaving, James turned back one more time. You know what? Keep your precious house. But when our child asks why they never see Uncle Michael, I'll tell them the truth, that you chose property over people. And when they're old enough to understand, they'll realize their parents tried to steal a house and called it a gift, I replied. They left, and I spent the weekend at the beach house, partly to make sure they didn't try to return, and partly because I needed the space to process everything. I installed a security system with cameras that alert my phone if anyone approaches the property. Jennifer, my neighbor, was horrified when I told her the full story and promised to call me immediately if she saw any of them return. But here's the kicker. When I got home Sunday night, I found out James had created a GoFundMe. Help James and Patricia buy their dream home after family betrayal. The description painted me as a wealthy miser who refused to help his pregnant sister-in-law and struggling brother despite having multiple properties and millions in assets. First of all, I don't have millions in assets. I have my apartment with a mortgage, the beach house also with a mortgage, and yes, a decent 401k and investment portfolio. I'm doing well, but I'm not swimming in Scrooge McDuck money. The GoFundMe had raised $500 from sympathetic strangers and distant relatives who didn't know the full story. I consulted a lawyer friend who said I might have grounds for defamation, but pursuing it would probably cause more family drama than it's worth. He did help me draft a cease and desist letter regarding any further attempts to access my property or misrepresent ownership of it. Final update. 4 months later, I genuinely thought I'd never have to update this again. But what happened last month requires documentation, if only for my own sanity and legal context. After the GoFundMe incident, things went completely silent. James and Patricia blocked me on all social media. My parents would only discuss neutral topics during our limited interactions. I wasn't invited to any family gatherings, which honestly was a relief. I focused on work, spent weekends at the beach house, and started therapy to deal with the grief of losing my family relationships over this insane situation. Then, 5 weeks ago, I received an email from a title company. Congratulations on your pending property transfer. Please review the attached documents for the deed transfer of beach house address to James Morrison and Patricia Williams. My heart stopped. I immediately called the title company. The representative was cheery. Oh yes, Mr. Morrison. Your brother James submitted all the paperwork for the family transfer. We just need your signature and the transfer tax payment. I never authorized any transfer, I said. This is fraud. Her tone changed immediately. Sir, we have documentation here showing your verbal agreement to transfer the property as a wedding gift, witnessed by Richard and Susan Morrison on... She rattled off the date of that infamous family dinner. A verbal agreement that's not legally binding for property transfer. Well, that's why we need your signature now to formalize it. You're not getting my signature. This is attempted fraud. I need all documentation you have immediately. She put me on hold. When she came back, her tone was professional but cautious. Sir, I'm going to need to escalate this to our legal department. Can you please provide proof of ownership? I sent everything. My deed, mortgage documents, tax records, insurance policies. Then I called my lawyer. Not my friend this time, but an actual real estate attorney who specializes in property fraud. The documentation the title company had received was insane. James had submitted an affidavit signed by him claiming I'd verbally agreed to gift the property, supporting statements from both my parents stating they witnessed this agreement. A letter from Patricia's doctor stating that stress from housing instability was affecting her pregnancy, though notably not recommending any specific solution. Screenshots of text messages where I'd said things like, "I want to help and I'll give you a generous gift," completely out of context, and the GoFundMe page as evidence of their desperate situation. The attorney immediately sent a cease and desist letter and notified the title company this was attempted fraud. He also told me we needed to file a police report. Filing a police report against your own brother is surreal. The detective who took my statement seemed sympathetic, but also weary. like he'd seen too many family disputes. Property fraud between family members is more common than you'd think, he said. Usually, it's elderly parents and adult children. But siblings? Yeah, we see it. Within 48 hours, everything exploded. James called me from a blocked number, screaming that I was ruining his life and had gotten the police involved over a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding? You tried to steal my house. I wasn't stealing. I was formalizing what you already promised. I never promised you my house. I explicitly said no repeatedly. Mom and Dad heard you agree to help us. Help? Yes. Give you my house? Absolutely not. He hung up on me. Then Patricia called, sobbing. How could you? I'm 7 months pregnant, and you're trying to have my child's father arrested. I'm not trying to have anyone arrested. I'm protecting myself from fraud. It wasn't fraud. Your parents said you'd agreed, but were too proud to admit it publicly. My parents lied, or convinced themselves of something that never happened. They're your parents. They wouldn't lie. Then they're delusional. Either way, I never agreed to give you my house. The next call was from Susan. Michael, you need to drop this immediately. James made a mistake, but involving the police, that's too far. He committed fraud, Mom. That's a felony. He's your brother who tried to steal my house. He wasn't stealing. We told him you'd agreed. Why would you tell him that? There was a long pause. Because you should have. Because it's the right thing to do. Because family helps family. So you lied to him to manipulate both of us. We didn't lie. We interpreted. You said you wanted to help. This is insane. You're all insane. No, Michael. You're the one who's lost perspective. You're choosing property over people. I'm choosing not to be robbed by people. I hung up. The detective called me a few days later. The title company had cooperated fully, and there was clear evidence of attempted fraud. However, the DA was reluctant to pursue charges, given the family nature of the dispute and the fact that no actual transfer had occurred. They suggested a restraining order might be more appropriate. My attorney agreed this was probably the best path forward, though he documented everything in case we needed it later. The restraining order hearing was last week. I've never seen my brother look so defeated. Patricia wasn't there. Apparently, she'd been put on bed rest. My parents were there, sitting behind James, glaring at me like I was the villain. The judge reviewed the evidence. He seemed particularly interested in the forged documentation and the fact that my parents had signed false affidavit. Mr. Morrison, he addressed James, did you genuinely believe your brother had agreed to give you this property? James mumbled something about family understanding and informal agreements. The judge turned to my parents. And you two signed statements saying you witnessed this agreement? Richard spoke up. We witnessed him saying he would help. Help with what? Specifically with their situation. Did he specifically say he would give them the beach house? Silence. I'll take that as a no. The judge looked disgusted. This is a clear case of attempted fraud, and frankly, you're all fortunate, Mr. Morrison, he meant me, isn't pursuing criminal charges. He granted the restraining order. James can't come within 500 feet of me or my properties. My parents weren't included, but the judge warned them that filing false affidavit is a crime, and they could face charges if they participated in anything similar again. As we were leaving the courthouse, James walked past me and said quietly, I hope you're happy. You've destroyed our family. You destroyed our family when you tried to steal from me, I replied. Susan was crying. We'll never forgive you for this, Michael. Never. Richard just shook his head and led her away. That was 3 weeks ago. Since then, I've received a few messages through third parties. Patricia had the baby, a girl. They named her Emma. I found out through a cousin's Facebook post. The same cousin told me James and Patricia are now living with her parents in another state. My parents sold some of their retirement investments to help them with the move and initial expenses. I've been seeing a therapist regularly. She says I'm grieving the family I thought I had versus the family I actually have. She also says I did nothing wrong, which I intellectually know, but emotionally struggle to accept. The beach house feels different now. Tainted somehow. I thought about selling it, but that feels like letting them win. My therapist says there's no winning or losing here, just surviving and moving forward. Friends who know the full story are supportive but shocked. Several have said variations of, I can't believe your family did that. Others have shared their own stories of family members feeling entitled to their success. I still check the security cameras more than I should. I still half expect to see James and Patricia on my deck, measuring windows and planning their future in my space. The neighbor Jennifer told me she's sorry about everything and assured me she's keeping an eye out. I don't know if I'll ever have a relationship with my family again. Part of me hopes that someday, years from now, we can rebuild something. But another part of me knows that they crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. They didn't just ask for something unreasonable. They tried to take it through deception when I said no. The lawyer kept all the documentation just in case. He said sometimes these things resurface years later when families think enough time has passed. Keep your guard up, he advised. Family fraudsters often try again. So that's where things stand. I'm a successful 33-year-old with a beach house I worked hard for, but no family to share my success with. James and Patricia have their baby, but no beach house and a restraining order. My parents have lost both sons in different ways. I know I did the right thing. I know I had every right to say no and to protect myself when they tried to steal from me. But knowing you're right doesn't make you feel less alone during the holidays. The ironic thing? If James had asked for help with a down payment on a modest place, or temporary housing assistance, or even to stay at the beach house for a few months while they got on their feet, I would have said yes. But they wanted everything. And so, they got nothing. I guess that's the real lesson here. Entitlement destroys relationships faster than anything else. I don't expect any more updates. The restraining order is in place. The locks are changed, and the security system is armed. My family made their choice, and I made mine. We all have to live with the consequences. Thank you to everyone who told me I wasn't crazy. In a situation where your entire family is gaslighting you, internet strangers kept me sane. The beach house is quiet now, just the sound of waves and seabirds. No measuring tapes, no furniture catalogs, no discussions of rental potential. Just me and the space I earned, in all its complicated, bittersweet glory.